Your next iPhone could cost hundreds of dollars more. And the strange part is, Apple may not be the one creating the problem. The problem starts with something most people never think about when they buy a phone: memory. Right now, the world is in the middle of a memory shortage, and one of the biggest reasons is the artificial intelligence boom. AI companies are building enormous data centers, and those data centers need massive amounts of memory and storage. That means Apple is suddenly competing for the same components that some of the world's biggest AI companies are buying. And the prices are rising. So here's the question. If it costs Apple more to build an iPhone, who is going to pay for it? You, Apple, or both? Let's break down what's actually happening. Apple has already warned that rising memory and storage costs are becoming a serious problem. In June, Apple CEO Tim Cook said price increases were becoming unavoidable because the company was facing huge increases in memory costs. And Apple has already raised prices on products including Macs and iPads. But there was something interesting about those increases. The iPhone was largely protected, for now. And that's why the next iPhone is so interesting. Because Apple can absorb higher costs for a while, but it can't absorb everything forever. And according to recent analyst estimates, the pressure could become much bigger with the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro. One estimate from GF Securities analyst Jeff Pu suggests the iPhone 18 Pro models could be $250 to $300 more expensive than the current generation. That could put the starting price of an iPhone 18 Pro around $1,399 in the United States. But stop there, because that is not Apple's official price. Apple hasn't announced the iPhone 18 Pro price yet. These are estimates based on expected component costs and Apple's typical margins. And that's actually what makes this story interesting. Because the question isn't simply, will the iPhone get more expensive? The bigger question is, how much more can Apple charge before customers finally say enough? To understand that, you have to understand Apple's business model. Apple doesn't try to be the cheapest smartphone company. It doesn't need to. For years, Apple has built one of the strongest premium brands in the world. When someone buys an iPhone, they're not necessarily buying just a phone. They're buying into an ecosystem: AirPods, Apple Watch, iCloud, apps, services, accessories, and for many customers, years of familiarity with iOS. The more connected you become to that ecosystem, the harder it can feel to leave it. And that gives Apple something extremely valuable: pricing power. Pricing power means a company can increase prices without losing all of its customers. And Apple has already demonstrated that customers are willing to pay a premium. The real question is how far that power goes. Imagine Apple increases the price by $50. Some people complain, but many still buy it. Now imagine the increase is $100. More customers start thinking about alternatives. But Apple still has its brand, its ecosystem, and its loyal customers. Now imagine the Pro model jumps by $250 or $300. Suddenly, the decision feels very different. Because $300 isn't just another number, it's psychologically significant. That money could buy another device. It could pay for several months of subscriptions. It could be the difference between upgrading this year and keeping your current phone for another year. And that's where Apple faces its biggest challenge. How much is too much? There's another reason this situation is happening now. AI. The artificial intelligence industry is consuming enormous amounts of computing hardware. Data centers need processors. They need high-performance memory. They need storage. And companies are spending billions of dollars building infrastructure to support AI. Memory manufacturers are responding to that demand. And when supply gets tight while demand keeps increasing, prices go up. That's basic economics. But the effect doesn't stay inside an AI data center. Those components are also used in smartphones, computers, tablets, and other consumer electronics. So something happening in the AI industry can eventually show up on the price tag of a phone sitting on a store shelf. And that's the part most consumers don't see. Now here's where Apple's situation becomes even more interesting. Apple has enormous amounts of cash, so why not simply pay the higher component prices? Because every company has to think about margins. If Apple's costs increase but the iPhone price stays exactly the same, Apple's profit per device could fall. And Apple sells hundreds of millions of devices across its product ecosystem. Even a relatively small increase in cost can become a massive number when multiplied across millions of units. So Apple has a decision. It can accept lower margins. It can find ways to reduce costs elsewhere. It can change the product or storage
configurations, or it can pass some of the cost to you. And recent reports suggest Apple may choose at least some of that last option. But here's something important. A higher iPhone price doesn't automatically mean Apple loses. In fact, Apple could potentially sell fewer phones and still protect its revenue or profits if the average selling price rises enough. Think about it. If you sell 100 phones at $1,000, that's $100,000. But if you sell 90 phones at $1,200, that's $108,000. Obviously, real Apple economics are much more complicated than this example, but the principle is important. Apple doesn't necessarily need every customer. It needs enough customers willing to pay the price. That's one reason premium brands are so powerful. And this is where the story becomes bigger than the iPhone. It's about something every company wants: the ability to raise prices without destroying demand. A company with weak pricing power gets squeezed when costs rise. Its suppliers charge more. Its customers refuse to pay more. So its profits get crushed. But a company with strong pricing power can potentially pass higher costs along to the customer. And Apple has spent decades building that power. Its logo is recognizable. Its products are tightly integrated. Its customers are loyal. Its brand is associated with premium technology. So when Apple's costs rise, it has more options than many smaller competitors. But there is a limit, and we don't know where that limit is yet. That's what makes the upcoming iPhone launch so interesting. If Apple raises the iPhone 18 Pro price significantly and customers still line up to buy it, Apple will have proven that its pricing power is stronger than ever. But if customers start delaying upgrades, buying older models, choosing cheaper phones, or simply deciding that the upgrade isn't worth it, then Apple could discover that even the world's strongest smartphone brand has a ceiling. And that ceiling is set by the customer. So, will your next iPhone actually cost $300 more? We don't know yet. Apple has not officially announced the iPhone 18 Pro pricing. The $250 to $300 figure is an analyst estimate, not a confirmed Apple price. But the underlying problem is real. Memory costs have risen. AI data centers are consuming enormous amounts of supply. Apple has already raised prices on several other products, and Apple itself has said that rising memory costs are becoming impossible to absorb completely. So when Apple finally reveals the next iPhone, don't just look at the price. Look at what that price tells you about Apple's business. Because if Apple can raise the price by hundreds of dollars and millions of people still decide to buy, that won't just be an expensive iPhone, it will be a demonstration of pricing power. And that is one of the most valuable advantages any company can have. The real value of a product isn't always what it costs to make, it's what customers believe it's worth. This is Startup Decoded. Follow for more business stories hiding behind the world's biggest companies.